So I had a thought that's been kind of percolating since last night and this morning. I'm not sure exactly where it came from. It may have been because I had a um, friend that helps out often at the Ironman triathlons. They do like aid stations and helping, and so maybe it got my brain thinking about triathlons. But honestly, it got me thinking about a question, and you're going to think, okay, that's a weird question to come up with when thinking about triathlons. But I really got to thinking, is it better in life to be generalists who is good at a lot of things, like the classic, what they say, jack of all trades, master of none? Or is it better to be that specialist in one area or so? And the reason I thought about that as I thought about triathlon was I was thinking, well, if you think about triathlon, the specialist that does the best at it would be the bicyclist, because generally it's going to be the longest portion of the race. And if you are an excellent bicyclist, the amount of speed and time that you can make up by doing the bicycle course quickly can make up for a great gulf of inexperience in the area of swimming or in running. However, you don't generally see a lot of triathletes, or let's say multi-sport other events, thinking about the Olympics, decathletes or otherwise, that are the competing specialists in one of those events, because it takes a focus of training in each event to some extent that will take away from the kind of focus that a specialist would need. And so as I think about that, I think in terms of my own life, because a lot of times I've felt like that generalist, the jack of all trades, master of none, and you end up doing a lot of trying out a lot of things, having a lot of hobbies, being told that you can do whatever you set your mind to, and unfortunately it doesn't add a lot of help when it comes to a direction as far as life. And so you can get kind of stuck thinking, am I ever going to figure this out? Because I can't just rely on, okay, I have some talent here, or okay, I have some natural ability here, let's go with it. So as I say that, I think there's an impression that a specialist can get farther or do better as far as the game or sport of life is concerned. There was that big popular book about outliers and how it takes 10,000 hours invested to really start to get good at a skill or an ability. And so if you think about that, that really plays against the generalist, being able to ever be seen as an expert or highly skilled in an area or a field. And so as I keep thinking about that, but then I thought back to my triathlon example. Okay, so an excellent swimmer, the thing is, in triathlon you're doing two other events that are based on your legs, cycling and running. And so the swimming in triathlon is even a different type of swimming, where you're mostly pulling with your hands and you're just kicking your legs to stay parallel to the surface of the water, to keep from floating up into an upward position. And so because of that, you swim differently than a swimmer would, where they are using a lot of their kick to propel them. And so the swimmer that is a specialist at swimming, they are kind of at a double disadvantage because it is not the style of swimming that most people are used to, and that probably the majority of folks specialize. I know there are some that use a lot of arm as well, but and it's gonna be one of the shorter legs of the race, and so the swimmer, his specialization really doesn't help him a whole lot. The runner can do all right, but he's still prey to the problem of, one, he's got another event that's going to use his legs and take away from his strength by that last portion, and two, he's got the problem of it's also not the longest part of the race. Especially if he's a really good runner, it may end up being the shortest portion of the race. And so it looks like the bicyclist is the most adept for being a specialist and succeeding well in the triathlon. However, another thing that I thought of when it comes to triathlon is, and thinking about the specialist with the bicycle, the problem with trying to be a specialist in life is the same issue that a lot of people have when it comes to the bicycle. It never really bothered me a whole lot, but a lot of times to get the maximum speed and power output as a cyclist, you have to use locking pedals to where your shoes actually clip into the pedal system. And so you're kind of locked in to that task for the next long stint of the race. And I think sometimes a specialist can feel that way as too. They lock into a skill or an ability, and they got to go with it for good or for ill. If it's starting to run off in the ditch, you're probably going with that bicycle. And so while locked into that, now depending on the skill of the person, that locked in period may be short or it may be long in the race, but locking in to a particular skill sometimes, while it may be advantageous to get ahead in the race of life, sometimes it can also be a pitfall because you are, in a sense, stuck and trapped with your opportunities. You can only go where you can go with that cycle. And so I don't know that I've really answered the question of whether it's better to be a generalist or a specialist in life, but I think a lot of times we do get trapped because we hear things like the parable of the talents, where one is given 5, one is given 2, and one is given 1, and we want to equate that to abilities that a person has. And so somehow it would make it look like, oh, the person that has a multitude of abilities, well, they are at the advantage, and they're gonna need to come up with something for each of the abilities that they have. Well, that message can be crushing to a person who is a jack of all trades but master of none. They're not especially skilled in anything. But the big problem is that parable isn't talking about natural talents or abilities. Talent there is a term referring to money. And so here someone has been given a certain amount of money, someone's been given another lesser amount of money, and then someone's been given the least amount of money. And that's basically it. It's not saying one of them was good in running, cycling, and swimming, and then another was only good in running and cycling, and then another, he was only good in swimming. That's not how that parable would read from a triathlete's Bible. And so there's no need to crush oneself under the weight of being a generalist and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm kind of good at a lot of things. So does that mean I have to produce some awesome increase or do great in all the things that I have a little bit of ability? Because all that can do is paralyze and freeze you for years to come. So take it from a generalist. Till next time.